A shocking saga just happened a few weeks ago. Something that has brought about lots of questions. Why did he fail at AC Milan? Why has he passed at Werder Bremen? Some say it's because of Juju. Victor Boniface, a striker many would have loved to be in their team. Today, I'll be here to break it down for you. Fret not, we'll be bringing about the reason why this must have happened to Victor Boniface. Let's get into it. So, Victor Boniface, he had his bags packed. He was the star striker to be at AC Milan. He had his AC Milan shirts ready. He was aiming for the San Siro to welcome him. And then in less than 48 hours, we have Boniface. Here we go, cancelled to Victor Boniface has just failed his medical. When Fabrizio broke this news, most of the people were confused. Some started throwing around tantrums. Oh, we told Boniface not to go and eat at the Nigerian villages. Oh, Boniface should look after his body and whatnot, just to mention a few things. But to go into the serious side of it, as to why the multi-million deal failed through in terms of a loan, Boniface was a victim of a court ruling by the Court of Arbitration of Sports, CAS. They actually had a ruling back in 2014 which tied down a player to the contract that they had. In tying down the player to the contract, I mean that you might be ready to sign the contract, but if you fail your medical, you are not bound to sign. The club buying you is not bound to sign you if you fail your medical. So it's FIFA Article 18, Cap 4, in brackets 4. You might want to read this for yourself if you want more understanding. I'll link the page to FIFA in regards to the article, and I'll also attach an image of this ruling so that people might get to understand what the FIFA Article 18 says. FIFA says that players' contracts are tied down to passing medical. That's it. If you don't pass, there is no contract signing. So FIFA Article 18 deals with contracts, and on this hand it actually deals with medicals and work permits. Abroad you need a work permit if you're a player to actually sign for your club. We've seen people like Andre Santos for Chelsea get a delayed move because they couldn't secure their work permit to actually come to England. So let's get deeper into what the Article 18 says. It says that a player's contract is pertinent to them passing their medical, and that the club which is purchasing the player, in this case AC Milan, should undertake all necessary research and follow all the appropriate steps before signing the contract with the player. This means conduct your medicals. We don't want the player to come in and then we have a case of, you didn't tell us the player had an injury issue. In this case, Boniface has a recurring knee injury. It's something that has kept him out in most games, even in their invisible title winning with Xabi Alonso. Boniface had to sit out most of the games because of an injury. So you track this back, he's had this injury for long, and so you look at AC Milan looking at, we want to maximize Boniface, so we have to conduct thorough tests, and there's maybe, I think he cracked on his VO2 max test, the test where you see like Real Madrid players putting on gas masks and then having to oxygen masks and then having to run on the treadmill. I think he cracked on this one, because they normally want to see if you will limp while you're running. And once they noticed this, they actually conducted 4 tests back to back to actually make sure that Boniface is not going to come back with this issue. But the series of tests actually came back safe. Nothing was changing from this. So within a 48-hour period, they did 4 tests, trying to see if they can kind of let it slip, but in this case, they couldn't. Looking at AC Milan being in most of the competitions, European competition, the Italian competitions, Boniface will be needed by them. And if they want to maximize him, he can't be on the bench just sitting around and earning his money. But then on the other hand, you ask yourself, how did he pass his medical at Werder Bremen? So it's a classic case of, we will take him, we don't care if he gets injured as long as he scores for us. And the other club is actually stingy in quotes. They don't want to pay you, yet you will be injured in a few games and sit like 70% of the games out through injury. So going back to FIFA, the article states, further states that if the medical is unsuccessful, the prospective employer can rescind control and the contract will not be signed. So he will say, as Americans say, I plead the fifth, and they will invoke the FIFA Article 18, and this actually gives them power to rescind the contract and say, we will not be proceeding with this, we want to find somebody else to replace you. And that's what actually happened to Boniface. None of the juju stuff actually worked. It's not right to say someone's career is going to be dampened by juju. He actually had a knee injury, which the club that was trying to sign him, which is a giant in the footballing terms, couldn't accept what they were getting in terms of a player with an injury which has been recurring over and over again. So FIFA also goes on to state that as the current employer, if you don't tell the prospective buyer that this player has injuries, they are bound to say, we will not sign the contract actually. So as you're negotiating terms, you actually need to tell the purchasing club, the player we are selling you has had this history with injuries. This is his rap sheet, as in federal terms. This is his rap sheet. This is how he's been injured over the years. And when the prospective buyer accepts this liability and they conduct their research as FIFA says, and they are actually okay with it, then they will proceed with signing the contract. And a player failing the medical before signing the contract can't be in procurement terms. You can't insert a force majeure if the player doesn't sign the contract due to failing the medical. So it's bound to be that the player doesn't sign the contract beforehand, conduct your medicals, then sign the contract afterwards. Not the other way around, not sign the contract then go to the medicals. If you do this, the player is yours. You can't insert the force majeure, we don't want you, go back to your club. So that's why you need to take a risk-free approach. That's why the risk-free approach gives you this kind of blanket of, yes, the player failed the medical, so you can send them back to the parent club. There's no need to sign the contracts, you're not bound at this point. But if the player actually signs the contract beforehand, then you end up being bound to carrying the player and the contract that they have, because now they have to fulfill the contract. They are here, they are yours, you have nothing to do. you have to make sure that you carry the contract and see it to its fulfillment. Something that you will not want to bear the burden of paying someone 3 million a year, or in this case people like Boniface actually shelf in 7 million and above per year. That's before taxes. That's something you need to consider while you're doing your business in the transfer. What are we getting? That's why the parent club needs to tell you, this player has been having injuries, this is his rap sheet, this is the medical history. And then you as the purchasing club need to be like, yes, we accept this liability, we will take it, and moving forward we will do our research, which is the medicals, as AC Milan did, 4 medical tests in 48 hours to try and determine if the extent of the injury is worth bearing the risk, which they ended up saying, we can't bear this risk, it's too much for us, we are covering the salary terms of this loan deal, we will not be moving forward with this. So that's why you normally hear Fabrizio say all documents are being exchanged and signed. It's actually all this medical history being checked at. Does it match what we saw in our medicals? Does what we saw look like it's risk-free? Do we insert any clauses? That's why you normally hear Fabrizio saying all this. And these are some loopholes that you can execute as the purchasing club, because CAS, the Court of Arbitration of Sports, clarifies that Club A agrees a transfer with Club B only if the player passes the medical, and if the player doesn't pass, the player can't be signed. So that's the breakdown. That's why Victor Boniface didn't get to go to AC Milan, returned to Leverkusen in 48 hours, and went on to Werder Bremen, which felt like they can bear the burden of being with Boniface with his injury issues. Hope you like this video. Leave a comment down in the comment section. Give it a like. Share it to your friends. Let's keep growing the community. Peace.